campaign, and Donald Trump is running an unusual one where his words and tweets are the front line of his war room. He hasn't even hired a pollster yet. The Clinton campaign uses a more traditional, would say tested playbook, and today their war room seized on Trump's new tax comments.
I come up with the biggest tax cut by far of any candidate, anybody, and I put it in. But that doesn't mean that's what we're going to get. We have to negotiate. The thing I'm going to do is make sure the middle class gets good tax breaks, because they have been absolutely shunned. The other thing, I'm going to fight very hard for business. For the wealthy, I think, frankly, it's going to go up. And you know what? It really should go up.
Here are the actual facts, though, on Trump's written plan. This is from the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center. The wealthiest Americans would actually get $1.3 million in new tax cuts under Trump. Now, Clinton aides are seizing on that to attack him as a false populist, as one Clinton aide made the case on a media conference call just today.
This is a tax plan by the billionaire for the billionaires. His tax plan proves that he's on the side of the wealthy and the big corporations and not the middle class, and we fully intend to hold him to it.
And joining us tonight in the Last Word War Room is Jeffrey Pollack, a Democratic pollster and the president of Global Strategy Group, and Hari Sevugan, a veteran of President Obama's 2008 campaign. Starting with you, Hari, you look at this, yes, it's good on the facts. It doesn't let Trump use sort of this negotiation claim to back out of it. But is it enough when he's hitting so hard and personally right now?
Yeah, well, I think the negotiation claim is great because he claims to be the world's greatest negotiator. But if we accept what he says today is true, essentially he's negotiating against himself, which would violate the first rule of negotiation. But yeah, I do think it's enough. I think, there's a lot of talk about whether he flip-flopped on this or did a 180. And I think, the idea that he did that is fine. But really what this is about is that it's not a flip-flop. It's doubling down on a tax plan. And if I'm in the Clinton camp, I'm saying it's not a flip-flop. It's doubling down on a tax plan that is a giveaway billionaires that is paid for on the backs of working people.
Well, he's the one, Jeff, claiming that there's more to the plan. So he's wanting to get into a flip-flop so that he can broaden what he claims his plan is. But that's not all. We're talking about the tax piece. As you look at this as someone who's been inside these war rooms, advised these campaigns, look at what Hillary Clinton said today when she was asked point blank about Bill Clinton attacks, the attacks on the marriage, and the way he's conducted himself. Take a listen.
I'm going to let him run his campaign however he chooses. I'm going to run my campaign, which is about a positive vision for our country with specific plans that I think will help us solve problems that we're facing, knocking down those barriers that stand in the way of people. I'm not running against him. He's doing a fine job of doing that himself.
But she is running against Donald Trump.
Yeah, look, there's no question it's a two-person race, so you've got somebody to oppose. Here's what's interesting. Look, all three of us have been in war rooms, right? We understand what it's like when a candidate goes out and says something, you have to pounce. Here, the challenge is Donald Trump says so many things that you can't follow. I mean, what he said in that clip that you played is unintelligible, right? Let's be clear. And it's also not what he says on paper.
You don't think people understand what Donald Trump's suggesting about Bill and Hillary Clinton?
I think, oh, no, but I'm talking about his tax policy.
But I'm talking about the fact that he's attacking Bill and Hillary Clinton.
Look,
one thing I learned on the Kerry campaign was if you sit around while other people define the candidate and don't respond directly to the criticisms, you are taking a big risk. Fair?
Totally fair, but I don't think these guys are taking that risk. I think they're taking him very seriously because they know the power of Donald Trump's words. But today and the last 48 hours have been about economic policies. It's been, has the guy flip-flop on the minimum wage? Has the guy flip-flop on tax policy? But if you look at it carefully, and think about that war room mentality. You hear somebody, your research team gathers together and says, hold on, these are not the facts. That's debate. Yeah, Donald Trump may want to take it to sort of personal attacks, but right now he actually is a little bit on the defensive in terms of defending his own policy because, frankly, I don't think he knows what his policy is.
So, Hari, speak to that as a former 08 Obama advisor. You had a newer candidate the country hadn't fully met, and you had to choose some days to explain his vision, but you also had to choose some days to deal with smears that were totally untrue. You guys put out a YouTube video having to explain that he wasn't a Muslim, but even if he were, that would be okay because there's nothing wrong with being a Muslim. Those were hard communications challenges. How did you choose when to do what?
Well, no, there's no question that you need to make sure the facts are out there and respond swiftly and forcefully. But it's also a question, to Jeff's point, of choosing the battlefield that you want to have these battles on. And if you get into this sort of personal back and forth with Donald Trump, you're on his battlefield. He's in a defensive crouch right now on this tax issue. And the other thing that I would note that the Clinton campaign should be taking advantage of today, if I'm them and I'm looking at their Oppo book, is this movement that he's had on the minimum wage. He's gone sort of back and forth on the minimum wage. Again, it's not about the flip-flop, but it's a great opportunity to remind people of that line he had in one of the very first Republican debates where he's like, wages are too high in this country. I would have that video all over the place today. But again, to Jeff's point, it is about choosing those battles, and I want to choose the battles that puts Donald Trump in the wrong position on some of these economic issues.
Here's the video the Hillary campaign is playing in a new web ad about economics. Take a look.
They talk about like I'm giving a tax increase for the wealthy. I'm not. They're still going to be paying less than they pay now.
The biggest beneficiaries are the 0.1% when it comes to raw dollars that will be saved.
Your proposed tax cut would add $10 trillion to the nation's debt.
Jeff?
Yeah, look, I mean, that's exactly what Hari was talking about. You want to be on that platform where you're talking about economic stuff, and he's just wrong. He's trying to mealy-mouth his way and to say, well, my tax plan is good for the middle class. But independent budget analysis has looked at it and said, look, this is a tax cut for the wealthy. And even in his own things, he's saying, yeah, the rich will pay more. He means pay more than my original plan, which has this horrendous tax cut that is not going to go to the middle class but to the wealthy. So if I'm the Clinton folks, and it's not my job to advise them, but if you're sitting in the war room, put him on the back end. Put him on the back end of the defensive. That's the way to do it.
Right, and pose the questions. What did you mean?
Absolutely.
Which one was it? And you see in the web ad, yeah, I mean, to Hari's point, they do want to own some of this terrain. Hari Sevugan and Jeff Pollack, thank you both. A peek inside the war room coming up. Donald Trump already looking